I've gotten into anime during its more edgy phase, the time where YouTube was full of Mirai Nikki, Another and Elfenlied AMVs. None of the mentioned series really stood the test of time, though I still have a tiny little sweet spot for Mirai Nikki. They were so popular because of the graphic content and the supposedly mature themes, but if you actually keep your brain turned on while watching them, you'll notice that none of those shows really have any substance. They're perfect for edgy teenagers like I was during that time. One show that wasn't as popular, but you've still heard of it from time to time, is Shiki. Somehow I managed to dodge that show for many years. Until a few days ago. I've watched it for the first time and, well, yeah, it's kinda shit. It has the exact same problem I described a few moments ago. There is nothing of substance in it. The story takes place in a small Japanese village, which I always love, and new people move into a big European castle which is at the outskirts of the village. We follow Ozaki Toshio, who is the village doctor. He notices that a lot of people suddenly die and the causes of death are all pretty similar. At first he suspects an epidemic, but that turned out not to be the case. The base plot structure of the show is already not great. The first half of the entire series consists of character gets introduced just to die in an episode or two so that Ozaki can get some new information. You may wonder how the fuck did they think it would be a good idea to stretch such a mediocre idea for so long? Well, the answer to that is Yuki Natsuno. He basically goes on the exact same journey as the doctor, but on a more personal level. He's a teenager, because of course, and he notices the deaths in the village as well. A girl that has a crush on him, even though he never talked to her, died, his only friend died, and eventually he stumbles upon the truth. That villagers arise from their graves as vampires and bite other people, which leads to their deaths. We, the audience, get that explained for the first time by this guy right here. He exposition dumps that the vampires work exactly the same way as they do in all the popular vampire stories ever. Sunlight, crosses and all that stuff. Now again, this is the first time we get this stuff confirmed, and despite that, this guy immediately tells us that he is an exception and can freely move in sunlight. What? Isn't there a rule or something like that? Don't immediately contradict the rules you set up in your story? Later on we learn that he isn't the only one and that they are a subspecies. That's pretty much the first half of the show. You have two characters that work separately towards the same goal. The problem is, as the viewer, you have to watch them make discoveries which you've already learned from the perspective of the other guy. That makes the whole thing incredibly tedious. Also, with the whole introducing characters just to kill them off setup, you get the situation where none of the characters have any personality, they get introduced, die, stay dead or revive as Shiki/vampires. If they come back, they'll almost get no screen time because they're now quote-unquote enemies. The whole premise of the show is completely fucked. Megumi is the only character with personality. She's annoying, but at least there's something to remember her by. But she dies in episode 1, wakes up again as a Shiki, gets like 10 minutes of screen time and dies again in the last episode. The only two characters with any substantial screen time are Toshio and Natsuno. Toshio starts off as a normal guy but descends into madness as he learns about the Shikis. His breakpoint is when he slices open his wife, who's screaming in agony. But who cares, she isn't human, right? Guess I should have mentioned that Shikis mostly retain their human personality but gain the need to feed on humans. It's in their nature, you've seen it a million times. After that incident, he only cares about eradicating the Shikis and that's his character. Not exactly unique, or good, or interesting. Or anything for that matter. Natsuno is the cynical teen you've seen in a million anime.
I don't have friends because who needs human connection? I'm better off alone.
Halfway through the show he dies and gets revived as a super Shiki which can survive in sunlight. From that point on he just becomes Batman, helping from the shadows and shit. Yeah, this guy is just pure cringe. So not exactly looking good for the show, but we're only halfway through. Maybe it gets better? Let's quickly go over the goal of the Shikis. Of course, the first ones that arrived there were the new family that moved into the village. They're mostly all Shikis and moved there because they wanted to turn the entire village into those creatures. They chose a village because it's easier to cut them off from the outside world so that the situation won't get public. So the first half of the second half is just Shikis killing villagers until the doctor manages to outsmart one of them and prove to the villagers that those things really exist. Now the turns have tabled and the Shikis get hunted. And it's a typical,
was it so wrong for us to kill? You humans kill animals to survive. We didn't become these things by choice.
I swear back in the Stone Age they already would throw rocks at you for writing something so generic. From a more objective standpoint, there are some noteworthy scenes like a father killing his son, but the problem is none of that shit matters to the viewer because we spent like a few seconds with these people. There was zero time to build interest or an attachment. All the people went insane and the village burned down. But the head of the Shikis did manage to escape. It's stuff you've seen a million times before. It's the unfortunate fate of horror stories. Once the mystery has been revealed, it only goes downhill from there. That's why Junji Ito stories work so well. The mysteries just never get solved. So before we end this, I have two things that I want to mention. First is the character designs. I love the anime and manga aesthetic, and I'm completely fine with it being unrealistic, but there's a clear difference between this and this. The hairstyles in the show are batshit insane. What the fuck is that, dude? What were they thinking? And it's not like one of the genres is comedy. Horror and comedy is a popular combination, but nah, it's constantly pretty serious and grim. And there are some, well, a few good scenes which would have gotten a reaction out of me if I cared at least a little. But these character designs don't work in a serious setting like this. I paused several times when a new character walked in. I had to confirm that I was watching the right show. Now the second thing I want to touch on is animation. I made a video regarding me losing interest in anime. One of the reasons is that most of them are slideshows that move at a snail's pace. And Shiki is exactly like that. No love or effort. Animation looks like fucking ass. I'm sure I'm gonna show some appropriate scenes right now. Characters just stand there with their mouths moving. Another perfect example as to why manga is better. This show completely wastes your time. There was nothing gained by it being in the medium of animation. Compare that to like Konosuba or Mushoku Tensei. I don't care how you feel about them, but no one can deny that those shows scream love and effort. The effort put into those shows is completely missing from Shiki. It's just a soulless product made to be consumed and forgotten. Wake me up when Chainsaw Man starts airing.